We all have to give it permission.
Those of
I'm
you that
leaving.
didn't,
I'm not doing this. You're not recording me.
those of you guys that didn't go to the trout bust, Mick was there, and Les did a great job on smoking.
Yes, it was good. Margie's still talking about it.
So by the way, Les is out for hire. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
If you got about 20 hours for him to smoke a brisket for you, he'll be happy to come do that for you.
He gets up in the
But-
middle of the night and throws another log in and takes excellent care of the meat.
Oh, yep, it's an annual. How many years has that been going, Terry? Or Dave?
Since somewhere in the 90s.
Oh, that's awesome. Good group of people. So, well, the question came up as far as fall fishing and fall fly boxes, and do you switch out flies in the fall? We had some experience. We had 2 full days, 2.5 days as far as on the water, and what fish we're going after, and so it was more of a question for the newer anglers of, do you switch? Do you have a fall fly box? Do you have a spring fly box? And so I kind of left this as an open conversation. I mean, we can definitely kind of talk what works for other people, what works for everybody, and then just a couple demonstrations, or if people have questions on different things, happy to jump in there. But I think Jim Saraceno, you're on. You had some great success on Sunday as far as some nice fish to hand, and Mick, you did too. So, was the fall actually something that affected, or did it change your fly choices? So I'm just it's gonna be a Q&A.
Yeah, so I would certainly think, when I'm thinking this time of the year, I'm thinking hoppers, because they are just all over the place. And I went down to Lane Spring Thursday, and I went back again Sunday, and I had 0 luck on hoppers, stimulators, anything like that. So I was armed with the hoppers, but they were not successful. And I've been to the same place in December or January, when you would never expect to see hoppers, and had great luck on things like stimulators. So, it's a mystery to me. I don't change out fly boxes depending on, the time of the year. I'll have the same fly box. I'll have dozens and dozens of different patterns. As a matter of fact, I carry 2 fly boxes, a dry fly box and a wet fly box. And, like I say, I just have dozens and dozens of different patterns. And I'll just switch out and, try. The second law of fishing is try something. If that doesn't work, try something else. And, so that's.
He might be breaking up on us.
That was great, Jim. And
But,
Please brought this out.
there you go, Beverly.
I think they can hear me.
We could hear you, Bev.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
I can see y'all, but I can't hear you.
You can't hear us? We could hear you.
Turn up your speaker.
We could hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. Can hear you.
Yeah.
Well, and now I don't get any feedback from that too.
Yeah.
Steve Ehrlich's on the call too. He fished with us on Sunday as well. Steve, you got a couple fish kind of right near the end before you left. In fact, he was funny. He was like, I'm quitting now because you were ahead. What was working for you on the at Lane Springs?
Well, can everybody hear me? I've had some
Yep.
audio problems. Yeah, I actually got by the end of the, I got 3 before lunch and then 2 in about 15 minutes after. And some of you I talked with Jim and a little bit with Mick about what I was using. I tend to be a I tend to be a woolly bugger guy. But I'll tell you my thinking on that. Like Jim, I try to think logically about what should work and what shouldn't work depending on the season. I find a lot of luck in moving water and catching and surprising fish. And I think about what are the flies that will distract or agitate. And I might just get one shot at the fish, but that thinking works well for me pretty much in a lot of places. And so I tend to use actually a little bigger buggers. And I tend to fish on the outside of the fast water and try to catch the fish so that all they're seeing is kind of a glance at the fly. And it's not I'm not the best of anglers in that regard, but I do better when I surprise fish and when I catch them, when I float something through their sort of through their drift, and they don't have a whole lot of time to think or look at it. So for me, that usually ends up being a bugger, or it usually ends up being some kind of a nymph with a flash in it, whether it's the nymph or whether it's a bugger, or whether it's a hare's ear or a pheasant tail, but something that can flash and they can see it quickly. And again, I tend to fish the edges of water, not right in the middle of water. And so for me, it's more about a technique that works well all seasons. Does that make sense? Again, it's purely idiosyncratic. I doubt that. So anyway, so I hope it did work for me on Sunday. Every fish that I caught was sort of on the edge of fast water using that approach.
I agree with that. And I think also, on the reverse for the dry fly fanatics, it is something where almost the same, coming in from that seam, letting it drift through, letting it float down a little bit too. But it's a quick take. You've got one shot. Yep. Yeah. It's a quick take. You've got one shot, but that area tends to play out well, I think. And for my part of it, what I like on that is actually hitting into kind of where you see foam, and you hear this over and over again. Foam is your friend, and so even a few bubbles coming through, that's still foam, but you kind of hit for that. And it seems to be an area that also, and probably the entomology side of it, but it's a trap, so it actually works like a fly trap. So there's more bugs in that foam that get caught in that. And so if you're trying to either work into the foam or hit on the foam on the edge and then work into that part of it, that takes a little bit more successful. The same technique, just different flies, because I think the same as far as swinging it through too. I actually tried some long stick stuff high over the water on a couple different areas and would only come through with a little midge, and they would take on that too. So switching up the technique again, trying something different. We did figure out at Lane Springs, the one thing is that we can't tell what they're feeding on. And so you just start out with the biggest fly in your fly box and then just keep kind of working your way down to instead of the smallest one. So everybody's got kind of a different thing that works for them. What I found was interesting is going up and around on some of the water. The grasshoppers that would come out were insane. We're talking like 2 inches long that all of a sudden, and they would just, and they're the winged ones that they don't just hop, they do something, they teleport, right, Mick? They teleport. So they would go from here to here, and they're so fast, but they were at least 2 inches long. It is something where, and you guys laughed at me, I didn't use it this weekend, but I have used it. And I'll switch over my camera because it's probably the ugliest. I was just messing around with stuff. But it is something where just trying and not getting so stuck on, oh, I don't want to switch out my line. I don't feel like switching out my leader. Trying different things too. But yeah, so on Saturday when we fished, and my other fly box is upstairs still drying. But it was this crazy. And this was my, I always think it's kind of the distractor. I know it's supposed to be an attractor, but I think it's a distractor. So you throw something in like this, cicadas have been great. But when you're working with something with the foam, easy to track, flashy, and then having a trail off of this, what was interesting on my grasshopper pattern that I was using on Saturday is I was getting more hits on that than I was on my trailing dry fly. And it was just a difference of between almost a 10 and then going all the way down to a 12 or 14. I wasn't doing a real drastic on that. The other thing is kind of where you have more of a grasshopper. So you have your deer hair and it's almost that same caddis underbody, but you have some legs on it, or switching up that profile. And these, I actually don't fish under the water. I want them to stay on top. So the difference. And then for me, over and over, I've said, people will ask, what are you fishing? Caddis all year long, caddis. And so this is a little hairier guy. It stays up a little bit longer, has a trailing shuck on the bottom, has the underbody as far as some dubbing in there too. And then I gave away a whole bunch of these. This is that one that I've done before, and it's called the Yellow Sally. And so it has the red thread on the bottom, goes to a bright green, yellow. And then I add a little bit of flash in there, add some legs. To me, it's about the shape and the presentation on there. And if all in doubt, Royal Coachman, I don't know what it is, but it's spot on every single time. And you can definitely pare down on size of it. Very traditional fly. I don't know what it's supposed to imitate, honestly, except that profile is just picture perfect on the water. So the shadow underneath, or how the presentation with the hackle holding up a little bit. But just, I love to tie this one, love to fish it. And it's one of those go-to, if nothing else is working on a dry fly, this guy, they come out of the box. But for the most
Amy,
part,
I think
caddis,
that's a Royal Wolf.
I mean, yeah, that thing. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
It's a bug, right? What, it's like me, what are you fishing? Caddis. It's like in the beginning part, right? Trying to learn all the names. What are you fishing?
Yeah.
Blue wing olive. Because it's like,
Hey,
how many
Amy.
things? Yeah.
Amy, you reminded me of something that real quick, and again, it may be obvious or counterintuitive, but I just wanted to mention it. One of the things, in addition to the kind of fly that I find useful in a place like Lane Springs, that area that tends to get kind of crowded, is I tend to be someone who casts longer than shorter. And I know we're always advised you don't need long casts, but it works well with casting longer, a little longer tippet than usual and lighter tippet, because the fish get a lot, they see a lot of people and a lot of flies. So, approach that I take is stay far away from them and entice them and make them chase it. And that for me works well a fair amount of time.
And the other thing we talked about a little bit, just as far as understanding where fish are. So, where you just think, oh, I want to get to that place, and you actually walk through all your good fishing area.
Yeah.
And so instead of fishing the areas that are closer to you, and we try to, shoot it out in 30 feet and you want to fish from there, fish 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, then go for the long cast. Because it's amazing how many are sitting very, very close. Mick, I think when we were walking back upstream, you're like, look at all these trout around my feet. It is something, it really is. We try to shoot, and I love throwing a long line, but it's harder to set. It's harder for beginners because that delay reaction, especially if you have any play in your line, but when you lift up, it's a second before that hook sets. So you're going to miss a lot more. But if you're fishing closer, you have a little bit better accuracy as far as your hook set and securing that fish. And we saw
Agreed.
that on Saturday, definitely. because I think all fish that everybody caught on Saturday were within 15 feet of them. Terry, you landed several nice ones.
Amy,
I know I
Don't
saw
tell
one.
anybody.
I saw one.
in Nebraska, it's not about the fly, it's about the fish.
Yep.
Because we fish for so many different species out here, since we don't have the luxury of having all these nice cold water streams you guys do. We've only got one, and that's the verdigris up here. So we spend a lot of time on lakes and ponds with warm water fish. So for example, in the spring, we're after crappie and bluegill that are on the spawn bed. So we could be using damselfly nymphs or something that's kind of bright and attracting that they'll hit. As the year gets older and the heat starts moving in, and I'm talking, as you all know, 100 degrees is not uncommon here in the summer. So we have to get out long, and I've even started doing a little trolling in my kayak, and that seems to be effective. But so you have to know what you're fishing for and what fish are there and which ones are likely to be feeding at the time. And then you have to choose your fly based on that. So my fly box really is, I'm kind of like a lot of people. I've got about 10 different fly boxes, and depending on the time of year it is, I'll take, and the fish I'm going after will determine what flies I pull out to take with me.
So wait, I have a question. You're supposed to actually take 1 or 2 fly boxes at a time, because I carry all 10.
No, let me
everybody
show you
everybody
something.
knows me. It looks like the never-ending almost purse. Yeah.
I know how you fish, Amy. I've been with you. But let me see if I can find the fly box that I carry with me most of the time.
I'm not even gonna show you what I carry. I
Here's
have
what I
enough to
carry.
last.
Right there.
So,
I might carry 2 of those. And that's it. That's all I'll take.
How do you get those big hoppers in there?
I only take 1 or 2. Hey, I'm not like you guys. I don't lose flies. No, 10 fishermen don't lose flies.
Head over.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, it's harder on that 10 carat rod, isn't it? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, the distance is kind of limiting too.
But the content of that box changes depending on stream, right? The content of that little box will change depending on your stream.
Depending on the fish I'm going after that particular day, yeah.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah,
I'm
see,
going
I
out for a
just figured-
bluegill, if I'm going out where a lake that I know I'm likely to catch either bass or bluegill or crappie, I'll put some floaters in it and a couple of dry or wet flies like a Utah killer bug or something like that. So, but I'm headed for the verdigris. I'm fishing the old standard buttons, the standbys, the RS2s and Copper Johns and Prince Nymphs and elk hair caddis, and I'll take about 2 boxes of a box of fly dries and a box of subsurface stuff with me on to the verdigris in different sizes too, because you never know.
Yeah,
Well,
another thing that I find interesting about fishing is it changes from place to place, from stream to stream. Certainly, it's going to change from species to species, but for instance, around here in Missouri, where I spend most of my time fishing the spring creeks, I do a lot of soft hackles. I do a lot of mohair leeches and streamers and dry flies and stuff like that. Very seldom do I ever resort to hopper and dropper or nymphs, or any variation of 2 things on my fly line at the same time. But a couple of years ago, a friend of mine and I went up to Viroqua, Wisconsin, which is in the Driftless region. And it's basically the same type of fishing that I do right here in Missouri. They're all small spring creeks. They talk about fish and ditches, and that's basically what it is. They're very small, very narrow water, full of wild trout, and most of them up there, interestingly enough, most of the wild trout are browns or brookies. I didn't see too much in the way of rainbow trout, But the entire week, the first day we hired a guide because we were not familiar with the area or the techniques or whatever. We hired a guide and he had us fishing hoppers and droppers all day long. And the rest of the week, we did hopper and dropper. Another thing, I always end up fishing downstream. We did hopper and dropper upstream. And we had a very, very successful week. And numerous times I thought, okay, oh, sure, this works, but what about the way I usually fish? And I would throw on whatever, soft hackles or streamers, and I'd fish downstream and I'd throw it in the current and do everything that I did here in Missouri, nothing. So, I mean, it just blew my mind that basically the same conditions, the same type of fish, whatever, 300-400 miles away, and totally different techniques.
Yeah, one thing I have found is that your most successful fly seems to be the one you use the most often. Funny how that works.
Well, and there's a lot to be said for your confidence fly.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it sounds funny, but it's something where, you know, when you're looking in your box and you're like, yeah, this one, it's your top producer. And I think that it takes a while to know which one that is, because you can fish next to people who are just as successful, and they're saying, no, I'm always catching on that. You can try it. You can try it all day long and not have one hit on it. And I don't know. I mean, I think it also is, we talk about this and the fish and the different conditions. And then in some parts, I think, it's still paying attention, knowing the entomology enough to know what's happening. But I've had people who have said, well, dry flies don't work in the winter. I'll show you. I'll show you they do.
Yeah, they do.
But it is something where, but that's also my favorite take. And so that's why I want to use it. But I think it's something, woolly buggers, I love that hit. I love leeches. I love that hit on their streamers. But it's a completely different, I think that streamer fishing is actually a really easy transition from standard fishing over to fly fishing, because you're actually doing something the whole time. Where if you're standard fishing and you're reeling and getting that fly in or that lure in, and then you cast it back out, streamer fishing is my opinion is that I think that's an easy transition for folks over when they're first learning about fly fishing. Is start them with woolly buggers, of course. Leeches, always. Leeches are, again, one of the top 10. If I could only carry five to 10, okay, I can't carry 5 to 10 flies. I can carry 5 to 10 fly boxes. But I would say that those would be definitely the go-to.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you hit the nail squarely on the head, Amy, when you said we need to be amateur entomologists, because one of the things that I always tell anybody I'm teaching how to fly fish with is before you even wet a line, to sit down and watch things for about 15 or 20 minutes. Just watch the water, see what's going on, watch what the fish are doing, and see if you can find out where they are, what they're eating. Just watch, and sit back, relax. If you have them, smoke them. If not, just enjoy the surroundings for a while,
And so this is a whole different topic. So I gear up at the car. Y'all can hate on that. I gear up at the car before I even see the water, because I know what I want to start with. And then and I'm happy to change. If I need to change out a fly, if I need to change at half the time, I think it's, trying new things. I have a weird thing of, if I catch 4 fish, I'll actually change flies, because for me, it's the tricking the fish. It's trying to figure out, okay, I know you like this to eat. Now will you like this to eat? But that's part of the game for me. But yeah, how many people do that? Gear up before you even, just what John said, before you look at the water. Are you ready to go? Or are you down there turning over rocks, checking out things first, and then gearing up, stream side? How do you guys like to fish?
Yeah, I'm with you, Amy. I gear up at the car, and get my Tenkara out to all of its full foot, tie the fly on, and I may just drop it in the grass on my way down there and just sit down on my stool and wait and watch for a while.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll often tie a fly on at the car. Mostly not because that's what I'm planning on fishing. It's more because I don't want to get down in the river and try to find the end of my line. You know, once you have the fly on, you can,
Yeah.
you know, you just put it in your whatever in one of your guides or whatever, and you got the end of the line. So I often tie a fly on, but the first thing I do when I get down to the water is look around, see if I can see any hatches or any rises or whatever. And then I go from there.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. I do, you know, whether I'm fishing the Eastern fly or Western fly rod or the Tenkara rod. Yeah, I tie a fly on first, and it's usually one of the high confidence flies, like Amy said, and that's what I go down with. But you know what? If I see a little tiny caddisfly hatch coming off and the fish are biting, I'll take that soft hackle caddis or soft hackle Tenkara fly off in a heartbeat and go with a little more conventional fly. So
The other part of that, it's pretty obvious. I made so many mistakes by just treading in and spoiling good water too quickly. And so it's spending time to watch and listen and look what's around, but it's also not and you know, ruining the water that's right in front of you because you've failed to take the time. I probably still do that 50% of the time.
well, not only that, but you know, you get to sit down and you might learn something.
Yeah.
You might hear some turkey cackling at you, you know, you might see a deer run through the bushes,
Yeah.
or a muskrat may decide that it's his time to go swim in the creek a little bit, or you might see,
Yeah.
I was fishing in the South Platte one day, just standing in the water. I wasn't even fishing, I was just standing there.
Yeah.
And I saw this big, huge gray shape come swimming up the creek, scared the you know what out of me.
Yeah.
It was the biggest damn beaver I've ever seen in my life, swimming in the South Platte River. You know, I never would have seen him if I'd been fishing. So,
You know, around here lately, I've been also look up and look at the birds.
Yeah.
Tell you how many beautiful eagles I've seen of late.
yeah. And
Jim,
Chris,
if you get up to Spring Creek up in the Taylor Reservoir area, you know, you can watch the moose up there.
I knew my name was coming up. I knew it.
Chris, you take it to a whole new level of enjoying the scenery.
I can't help it.
It took me about 3 times going out with Chris before we could actually get a good picture of Chris, where he's like, you know, totally focused and line forward and head forward and everything else. Chris has this, and I'm teasing him because it's the most amazing thing to watch, because it brings back like how it feels to be outside. But he'll be casting, and his head's actually totally turned this way. He's casting like this. He's just looking up in the trees. He's looking everywhere, and he still casts perfectly straight, which is actually amazing. But he's like, no, that's really. So we always laugh, and we figure that Chris is going to know where all the bears are before we do.
Yeah, I'll throw rocks at him.
But it is, but it's one of those things of just being out in that, and just again, just hearing the laughs and hearing, you know, watching other people, their successes too. I think it is something where I actually thought I was gonna not have, where people were saying, no, you only put your fly on at the stream, because I've read so much of that it's almost to the point of intimidating, that you should, you know, wait, get down to the water, then you pick your fly of what's happening. And I always just thought, I just want to be ready to go when I get to the water. That was kind of my purpose, but I like Jim's thing too, of I can see my line, so I can actually work on it. What about colors for fall? Do you guys switch colors when it comes to fall based on what the bugs are doing? Right now, a lot of orange stuff, black stuff. You know, I mean, what do you switch and go to spring colors and then fall colors?
I don't. Olive, purple,
Yeah, I don't
black,
either.
white.
I don't either.
They're standards, and they never go bad.
Same
That's
bug
too
through the
much
stream in
work.
the fall as there in the spring.
What about Mick, Terry? What do you guys think on this, Jim?
I use
I'm lazy. I just do what I've been doing all year.
You're on a record-setting trend right now. Gar, you got
Oh,
the
no
blue,
kidding.
you got smallmouth, you got a trout this weekend. You're just on a roll.
He's got gar too.
That's what I said. Yeah, gar. And he got a smallmouth, I think, last time when he went to Lane Springs. And then
Has he got a
trout
Great
now.
Plains bonefish yet?
He does not. He's coming your direction though.
Okay.
What are we doing?
They fish for carp up in Nebraska.
Hey, I've been carp fishing before.
Have you caught anything?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, you catch a 35-pound carp on a 5-weight fly rod and you'll never fish for anything else again in your life.
If you want to try, let's see, if you leave Alton on the River Road and you're going to Grafton, there is Clifton Terrace Road that goes up the hill. And right before there is the outlet of the city sewer. And there are always carp swimming right around there in the Mississippi. So if you want to go try, I'm not telling what fly to put on there, but you'll find carp there.
Everybody laughs, but I'll tell you what, a carp is one gene removed from the Florida bonefish. And that's the honest to God truth. And they are not easy to catch on any kind of thing. They are a very difficult fish to try and catch. And some of the guides, the carp fishing guides from around here, Mike Medina from Denver and a couple of the other guys will tell you, man, this is not easy fishing. This is harder fishing. So
Yeah.
I would love to carp fish. Anytime I see a carp, I'm going to throw something at it, but I don't know. I obviously don't know what I'm doing. I think maybe once or twice I ever got one to bite. One was, like you say, it was like about 3 feet long, and I was fishing for bluegill. And I mean, he took it. And I mean, it was kind of one of those deals that I knew right from the beginning, I'm not going to be able to bring this fish in, but I had a whole lot of fun while he was on there.
I tell you what, Jim, next time we have our Great Plains Bonefish Tournament, which will probably be next August or September.
Oh, wait a minute. Is it, you're going to have it in August?
Absolutely.
In Nebraska.
In
That's when it's hot
Nebraska.
and humid, and that's when it's the hottest time of the year, and that's when the bonefish bite.
Wow.
That's okay. I'll come and not catch fish in October, November. How's that?
Have you all
Actually,
fished
with the climate
south-
change and everything, we may be changing those dates, so.
the South Platte River in Colorado? Probably imagine some of you have fished that.
Yeah.
Have you fished the South Platte right in Denver? There's people fly fish for carp right there. Where it goes through Denver, right in the outskirts of Denver. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Big-
Mike Medina, who I mentioned earlier, is a guide, a carp guide. And that's where he is from. He's from Denver, and that's where he fishes a lot. So.
That's where he fishes.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, we got a couple Colorado folks on here too, so they probably witnessed that.
Yeah, I usually don't go for the carp. I'm looking for the trout.
Yes, Miss Euro nymphing.
Whatever.
So Lois took a class this past weekend on Euro nymphing, and she loves it.
I do.
And now she's gonna tie a fly for us one of these times. But yeah, she did a class and she learned a lot.
Well, Lois, I'll tell you what, we need to introduce you to the Tenkara fly fishing, because Tenkara fly fishing is really
I'm not
your own
opposed.
nymphing.
I'm not opposed.
She she just keeps calling me a hater, and I don't understand that. I love what you guys love. I love it. I just don't want to do it.
I'll tell you what, Lois, I will be in Colorado Springs next year for my 55th reunion. I'll get a hold of you and we'll go tenkara fishing. How's that?
Hey there, Jim Stanley, you in?
Yeah,
See?
Cool. We'll have a good old time.
I may not have a tenkara.
Oh, I'll bring enough for everybody.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's so fun to hear just the different things. Jim Saraceno was working through a couple stretches this weekend, and listening to him talk about how to kind of play a seam and stuff. And it's just every time we're out, it's a different river, even if it's the same river you've been to. Just because what worked last week doesn't work again. You've got to, it's always that puzzle. And so all these different tricks on different things, the different techniques. I think it makes us better anglers, but it's so much more enjoyable too. And just learning all the different parts of it. You can't learn it all. You can never know it all. I fully believe that. So it's just a cool thing. So I tease you guys just in fun with all your stuff. And I fished right next to John for hours on end.
We're not taking it that way, Amy. Nice try though.
Okay. I'm not defensive or anything.
I was talking to some people Sunday, and we're talking about fishing woolly boogers and stuff like that. And kind of like Steve, a lot of times I like to just throw my fly into the current and fish the edges of the seams and stuff like that. So the fly is in fast water on a regular basis. And for years and years, one of my most productive flies was a blueback woolly booger. It's tied with peacock body, and it's just got a piece of blue marabou down the back. As a matter of fact, I got one here.
That's one we looked at together on Sunday, Jim.
Yep, you showed us
Yeah,
that.
so I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a fairly standard woolly booger, peacock body, and then there's just one stripe of marabou that goes down the back. And it's a very effective fly, but the problem is when it sits in the water, even saddle hackle these days seem to be very, very stiff. And that palmer, or the spiral wrap of that stiff hackle, that fly will just start spinning around and spinning around, and it'll turn the end of your line into just like a slinky. I mean, it's just really messes with the line. So I've started fishing mohair leeches, which basically is the same color. And there's no spiral hackle that's going down there, and that sits in the water, and that doesn't do any of the spinning around. So that's, if you run into that problem, basically you got two choices. You can use a larger tippet, but then if you're using a larger tippet, then trout have a tendency to be leader shy, so you're going to get fewer strikes. Or you can just throw on a mohair leech. And
hey Jim, do you add a blue back to that mohair leech, or is it just olive?
No, I've never figured out how to put a piece of marabou down on the mohair leech. So no, there's no blue on that.
Okay, it works as well.
But it's very, very effective.
UV glue, Jim, UV glue.
Oh no, I was gonna hold up my thing. Sharpies.
Sharpies.
Or just tie your fly in reverse. Put everything on backwards and leave the mohair, the blue marabou as the last thing that goes on.
But the mohair is, you brush it out as you go, John. So I don't know that would work with you tease it as you tie it in and go.
Okay.
So okay, so here's it actually, it's on a spool. So I think it depends on how, it'd be cool to see like how you could, if you could actually wrap it back up on top, you mean? Like, are you talking about having it in?
Are you trying to put a stripe across the back?
Yeah.
So a way you could do that, not to interject, is you tie your marabou in at the tips and wet it so it's hanging off the back. And as long as your mohair is on a brush, pull it forward and you just wrap over it, and then you lift the marabou up and do another couple wraps of mohair. Lick your fingers and separate it. Pull that marabou forward, do a couple wraps over top of it. You'll get that blue back, but it's not going to be overpowering. That's
Yeah,
how.
that sounds like that would work.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
how.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Lee Barbie showed me that. Actually, that's one of his tricks.
So yeah, you're talking about like this, Joe. So you got your mohair but go ahead then and take in your marabou.
Mm-hmm.
And where do I start? Back at the bend?
You'd want to, if you're tying it, I don't know how to tie a leech. I never use leeches. We don't have them here in central Indiana too much. But I would, if you're tying it like a woolly bugger, starting at the end, at the bend, I would tie your marabou in. And it's almost like a weave. You know, you do a couple wraps of the leech and then you pull the marabou over after you split the hair, sort of like I did on this little sculpin.
So yeah, don't tie in your mohair first, by the way, just in case. Otherwise you won't be able.
A good way to do it is having something weighted on your mohair, whether it's a bobbin or some hackle pliers. That way you can just leave it hanging there while you're dealing with the marabou. Marabou's pretty, it does its own thing most of the time.
Honestly, I never
Here's more.
convinced myself that the blue stripe did anything, but it sure looks good. So
I
does look good.
can't tell you.
Itself was very effective. So
I can't tell you how many times I copied that, Jim, because I think you gave me one of those the first year, and I've copied that same pattern over it. I love it. I don't know why. It's just the coloring on it or something. But I've copied that one that you did, and I'm sure if you can look at my fly box, I'm sure I have a Jim Saraceno influenced one of those. But I haven't run into the spinning issue. See, I'm guessing you have to start your marabou at the back.
Yeah.
To go along with it, and so you only do a few in. Sorry. Yeah. You guys talk amongst yourself. I'm still trying to figure this out in my head.
Let me go see if I have a brush. I might be able to, I have something similar. I have all my streamer stuff out in front of me.
You know, I mentioned to a couple of people, somebody once told me that that blue is important in the state of Missouri, you know, I don't, and in ways beyond fishing, maybe, I don't know. But it always seemed to work with me with things like blue cracklebacks and blue buggers and blue copper johns. I don't know. Anybody else have experience using the color blue like that?
Purple.
Purple. Yeah, not blue.
Purple. Yeah.
I use blue for smallmouth and largemouth anytime the water's super clear and the sun is just bright with no cloud in the sky.
Okay.
They're moving more towards a silhouette because they can't see it as good, and that's just around here. It's an old wives' tale. It just works for me.
Okay, good to know.
All right, I'm gonna have to figure this one out. That is not doing what I wanted to do. So anyway,
when it comes to tying woolly boogers for bass, blue and purple, well, let's see, we're on the camera. Okay. So I tie these things
Oh, yeah.
It's just kind of blue and purple
Yeah,
and some
Yeah.
whatever cactus chenille or polar chenille. And these things are, I catch a lot of bass on those. And the inspiration for these were what they call June bug rubber worms. So when I spin fish, that's probably about all I ever use is June bug. And it's just it's a purple with blue and purple metal flakes in it. So that was the inspiration for these flies. And I'm telling you, the bass love them.
I dig it.
So how often do you guys switch over from bass bugs to trout bugs? I mean, as far as not using the same thing, use the same thing. I mean, as far as we talked about switching out fly boxes, but I've had pretty good luck with trout on the bigger, those colors, especially those colors with trout. But that's more for winter. I will definitely say summertime, it doesn't seem to be. But how oftentimes are you are on your retrieve in, you have a fish in, and then another fish or multiple fish come up and start chasing. And so that's another thing too, is that, you know, that streamer, the bait fish pattern, things like that. I find it kind of interesting because I don't switch out from bass bugs to trout bugs. It's just a matter of more what I'm wanting to throw that day or how tired an arm is. But Jim, I have to laugh. This looks like I'm getting ready for some kind of Mardi Gras or something. But you want to take the chenille to a whole new level? Let me switch my camera over.
Is that some kind of boa?
Isn't it? Doesn't it look like this? I love this stuff. So no, but what's amazing is, so it has this purple, it has black in it, and then it has rubber legs already put in it as well. It's the craziest stuff. So you can see, and I'll pull that. I'll wrap some, as opposed to just like the flat one, but you can't compress it almost. It's really just cool, but it already has a rubber built into it. So it's kind of fun. But back to the bass flies versus trout flies while I clean up my desk here.
I was doing a
Amy,
podcast once, Amy.
talking about materials, Amy, look at what I found at Hobby Lobby the other day.
Woo.
Oh yeah.
Biots, yeah.
Yep.
$1.50.
I'm telling you, you just have to look, and they often have them and they don't even know they have them, and they're in the floral department.
Yep.
And they're in little floral thingies, and you look at it, you're like, these are turkey biots. And you pull it apart, sure enough, and they're real. They're not it's not a synthetic. But yeah, great find there.
Yeah, you can also get peacock feathers, you know, the whole tail with the eye of the feather in there for about $1.
Yep.
And they don't have any idea what they've got for sale over there.
You just can't be in, it's like any other kind of shop, and you just can't be going in looking for something, because sure enough, they will not have it then.
Yeah, I don't have hardly any flies that I will use for bass and trout. I can't think of any crossover flies that I have. I mean, even the woolly boogers, if I'm doing woolly boogers, or like I say, I usually do the mohair leeches instead. They're size 10, maybe 12, usually olive, occasionally a dark brown. When it comes to woolly boogers for bass, they're size 6, and they're the blue and the purple, or black, or white, or I use a lot of yellow for bass. But I don't have a single box where I have bass flies and trout flies in the same box. I mean, I don't have any crossover flies at all.
Yeah, see here, and I do. That woolly bugger I've used for bass, and I've caught more brown trout on a woolly bugger than any other fly in my box. I've also caught more largemouth bass on the same woolly bugger, size 12, and a little, sometimes smaller for the trout, and a little bigger for the bass. So, yeah, I wondered, is it a function of the area of the country, or is it a function of the fishermen?
Well, let me ask you this: when you're saying you're catching the brownies on the same fly as the bass, how big are those brownies?
Well, yeah, in Nebraska, that's kind of a bogus question in some respects because they don't get that big up here. But yeah, they're 12 to 16 inches mainly, about the same size as the bass that I catch.
Yeah, so it seems to me that brownies, when they get to a certain size, they fish more like bass do.
Predators.
They kind of become predators. I
Yeah.
mean, when they're small, and especially, at least, I don't have a lot of experience with brownies, but it just seems that, the smaller fish, the smaller trout are basically they're opportunists. They sit someplace and they wait for food to come down, and when it comes by, they grab it. Whereas bass are predators, and they're like muggers. They want to go someplace where they can see what's going on, but can't be seen. So they kind of hide around and hide out, and something comes by and they jump out and get them. And large brownies have a tendency to do that same thing. They become very predatory. I mean, they talk about these fabulous mouse hatches in New Zealand for the browns, and they are giant, and they're fishing at midnight, and it's just a whole different ball of wax once they get to a certain size.
That's interesting because I hadn't really thought about that, but what I have, when I fish a woolly bugger here in Nebraska, if I fish it downstream, let it float down and then pulling it back, I catch a lot of rainbows. And I've never caught a brown with a downstream cast, but if I fish it upstream on a dead drift kind of thing, then I seem to catch a lot of browns, which would indicate that they're creatures of opportunity. The bass that we catch here, of course, we're catching them out of lakes, so it's a cast and retrieve. So it's kind of like a downstream cast. So
yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, I had never thought about that as the younger brownies being opportunistic, whereas the olders are predators like bass. So
I think also, you had asked, is it a function of the fishermen? I mean, I think in part it's a testament to the diverse capacity of a woolly bugger if the fisherman is experienced and creative enough to be able, to use it that way. And I'm kind of new to the group, so I'll say something at the risk of, I hope I don't offend any, but this is what I love about fly fishing and hearing all of you all talk about it. All the patterns and rules and predictions work until they don't, and then where are we?
I will say this about the woolly bugger. That's the one fly I do not fish on a tenkara rod. Yeah, if I'm going to fish a woolly bugger, I'm going Western fly fishing with that one.
And what I love about it too is just to hear the different, that not everything has to be textbook perfect, right? I mean, we've just talked about this for almost an hour of how, try it, give it another chance, try it a different way, things like that. So it is something where I think it's so interesting to learn the habits. And, John just said something that when you talk about an upstream cast and then kind of stripping it across or a diagonal where it's actually trying to get maybe out of a current, and that hit is completely different than going downstream and coming back up. But anyway, this has been a lot of fun. My screen maybe. So I tied with my boa thing. And so I'm telling you, I would use this. I would use this spring for bass. I would use this for trout today. It's just a matter of kind of, again, just playing with different things and getting a hang of it. But color, I think, does come into play. I for some reason, and I don't know if it was just a random coincidence. One of the times when I was out fishing, it was near Halloween. I don't know why. I looked down in my box and I had a black beetle that had an orange foam indicator on the top. So I was thinking, well, that kind of looks like Halloween, doesn't it? So that's how I think. I mean, just randomly, I'm like, well, that kind of looks, it's kind of near Halloween. Threw it. I couldn't believe it was one after another. So, but was it that day, or was it just because I believe flies talk to you and they're like, pick me, in the fly box. And so I think it's just a matter of just trying different things and not being intimidated to try what you like out there.
No,
I mean,
that's
just have fun with it.
That's a good point, Amy. When I first started fly fishing, I'm going back 55 years now. Fly fishing was a lot different then. You had certain fly patterns, Royal Wolf, Royal Coachman, and a few others that everybody fished. And, you know, the guys walked around with corduroy jackets with the leather cuffs on them and their little tweed hats. And, you know, fly fishing was looked at as a rich man's sport. And now, you know, it's just another form of fishing. And I just absolutely love to be out on the river or on a lake or on a stream and run into other fly fishermen. And because I've never met a fly fisherman I didn't like. It's a wonderful, wonderful sport, and it's a wonderful, wonderful profession or thing that we are doing here. And it's more fun than I can believe. So.
Yeah, I think
I agree. Hey, I've got a general question out there. Getting on a lot of lakes and stuff like that, shorelines are difficult to fish. What's everybody's opinion or somebody's opinion on a good stable kind of a flotation device?
A boat?
A bobber. Works pretty good. Yeah.
I have a bunch of float tubes. I think I have 14 float tubes, and most of them are classic accessories. The Togiak my wife has, it's pretty good, but the best one for getting you up out of the water is a Cumberland. I think they run like 350, and you're setting in the water using flippers. It's really cool, especially when it's really hot outside. And then I fish them in the winter. I just throw my waders on with my wader boots and throw my flippers on over top them, and I get out and chase muskie. I haven't caught a muskie in a float tube yet, but it's gonna be intense.
Drag you all over the place.
Who makes those?
Yeah, sit on top kayak.
Where's Joe? There he is over there.
Yeah, sit on top kayak is really good. That's what I use. I've got one that I've been using for about 2 years, and I really like it a lot. In fact, I just put a fish finder on it. I don't know why, but I put it on. So, but yeah, it's pretty stable. Just as long as you got a life jacket on, you're fine.
Hey, Joe, what was the name of the thing?
It's all you have to do is search Cumberland float tube, like the Cumberland River. It's good. It's got a big foam seat, so your behind's out of the water, and it's I got some knee and hip issues, and so that's the only one.
Yeah, me too.
It doesn't fatigue me as much because I'm using more of my whole leg instead of just swiveling at the hip, since I haven't got much movement above my kneecap when I'm in that one. If I'm in my wife's or my kiddos, when my butt's in the water, I'm using my whole leg to propel myself because it's giving me so much drag.
Yeah. And Mr. Wright, I tried to sit upon kayak, but it doesn't work very good when the sit upon kayak is on top of you.
I think you got the roles reversed on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rolling is right. Got a lot of roll there.
Yeah, they do make. I tell you what, a friend of mine and one of our Eric Ramos was one of our volunteers for Healing Waters here in Omaha. He just bought a combination kayak. It's a hybrid between a kayak and a paddleboard. And he
Really?
can actually stand up in that thing and cast from it. So I think that's the new thing you're going to start seeing a lot more of in the fly fishing arena for boats to get out on the water with, is these hybrid kayaks that are a lot more stable than what we're used to seeing in a kayak.
Anybody want to tell them
That
it's
sounds
called the
good.
it's called the surfboard?
If you got lots of money, look at a Hobie.
Yeah. There you go. I was
Yeah,
gonna say, yeah, go for
yeah,
go for
no
big
doubt. The
thing.
Hobie is absolutely the top of the line. And you can get the one with the pedals on it for about $1,400.
Yeah.
But if you're going to
Every
spend
once
that
in a
much
while,
money, you
just
might
need
as
a-
well go buy a cheap John boat with a 25 horsepower motor on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're
Hobie, what is it? I
It's
missed
called a
just
that.
look
Hobie.
look up Hobie kayaks.
Yeah.
Kayak?
you'll see 'em. Yeah.
Hobbie is probably the top of the line kayak today. And they've
Okay.
got several editions. Look at the fishing version.
I have a small lightweight solo canoe. It weighs about 32 pounds and I've been
Yeah.
using that for 20 years. I love it.
Yeah. And once you get used to it, you wonder why you ever didn't do it to begin with. It's just, you can carry it with one hand to the lake and get in it and paddle all over the place all day long. You get good exercise and catch a lot of fish because it's quiet. It's not as efficient as a float tube, but I can go a lot farther, a lot faster in my kayak than I ever could in my float tube.
Yeah, that's a true story.
All right, all. Well, we went about 5 minutes long. Anybody have any topics for next week? What do you want to see? Any questions on anything? This was a great conversation, I think, just to cover kind of fall fishing and put away some of those myths of what you must fish with. But anybody have anything they want to see for next Monday?
Surprise us, Amy.
Okay, Amy, I'll call you Monday after lunch and we'll figure it out.
See, that's what I was gonna say, is otherwise, if you guys don't say anything, then Lois goes, "Hey, can we do fall stuff? Hey, can we do?"
Hey, can we do fall stuff?
Yeah. So I tied 2. I don't know what you guys were all doing, but I
Something
like
with
this little guy.
pumpkin spice.
You're on
Yeah,
your pumpkin
I'll tell you
spice.
what, Amy, let's see everybody's videos from this week about all their fishing. Everybody go fishing, take a 10-minute video and let's all look at those.
Sure, that'll challenge the technical field.
There you go. Yeah, get your
Can
GoPros out and have at it.
we make sure Jara's on that call too?
Please, yeah.
So
Yeah.
here's
And
my
Glenn
little
Morgan,
guy. Yep, I tied this one, and so anyway, I mean, it's just, again, kind of, I think the creativity is in the tying and then catching's also amazing. So we'll play it by ear for next week. If nothing else, I keep getting requests, believe it or not, for game changers. We don't need to tie another game changer. I'm always happy to tie game changers, love them. But I just think that's funny that request keeps coming up. I'm like, it's one movement. You're just doing the same thing. But I'm happy to do that. But I think we've done foam a couple times, so I don't know. I'll wait for the crowd to speak, and I'm sure I'll get a couple emails on that too. So we'll see what that is. Other than that, everybody have a great week. Again, if you have time on Thursday, the Omaha group has Tom Rosenbaum. Baumberg. Anyway, he is on Rosenbauer.
Yeah.
I'm only gonna call him Tom. I'll call him Tom on Thursday. But he will be on the Omaha, and they same like us, same bat channel. Thursday night, be 6 o'clock, I believe, 6 p.m. Central Time.
6 p.m. Yeah, it's a
And
team
6
call, not
p.m.
a Zoom call.
Yep, Teams, and it's just fun. It's just to see those guys. It's almost as if you're sitting around your own kitchen table with them. It's amazing. So if you have time on Thursday night, please join that call. If not, that Mike will record it just for our use only, but not for any outside. Can't post it out on anything else, but we'll kind of send that out with instructions after the fact. But everybody have a great week. Stay healthy and go catch some fish.
Be well, everyone.
Amy.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Hey, Mick,
Yes.
did you receive the link to the video I took of Margie's fish?
No.
I did,
Okay.
Jim.
You did?
I
Okay, did
did.
it come
I
in?
haven't.
Did
See
it
you
come in
guys.
email?
Yeah. I'll check my email. I haven't.
It's on your. It should be on your Gmail, Mick, and it's on a Google. It's on a shared. So it's going to be like in the box or whatever your shared platform is.
Okay.
I didn't open it yet, Jim, but it came through almost about 10 or 15 minutes after you sent those other pictures, which are awesome. I
Okay.
have an idea. Wink,
Cool.
wink. A canvas idea. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go eat dinner. Thank you all.
Okay, take care. See you next week.
Take care.